right, settle down. What? Oh. So before we get started, what? You on what? Did you get the email on the promotions? No. I thought he said he was going to do it next week.
Okay.
Because there's no papers here. Or next month, because there's no like certificates to hand out.
Okay.
He has them.
Right. I can announce it if you want. Your choice.
I mean, they're not here except for me. So.
Well, and then two other C3s.
If you want to go ahead.
I don't care. No, beyond that was good anyway. Let's get the pizza people back in there.
Hey, Dave!
Well, I mean, I'm going to tell you what, I'm making my phone out of my car.
I think has it. Has it? Okay. Yeah, you'll be here, and you'll see the thing out. It'll just. Oh, no idea. Not my problem. I think we'll all attach it to the meeting notes, so that it'll be there for people to go.
So this is streaming?
Yeah, it says streaming. All right, we're gonna start. But before we get into presentations, Pete's got an announcement on lots of promotions and other stuff.
So we've got 6 promotions. So I'm going to go and announce those. Paul's not here. You get your little certificate later if you want it, but we'll run through those. Basically promoted to C3, Paul Simcoe. While your hands are going together, keep them together for Grant McDougal. McDougal. Not here. Plays a full-time player for Berkeley, does high school games for us, refs all the Berkeley B-side games. Eric Madsen, not here tonight. And bad ACL and going to school in Pennsylvania, but he made his mark. Our young friend, Mr. Ren Mancano. You guys remember who Ren is? The biggies, and I'll go with the guy that's not here, promoted to C1 after, I don't know, a dozen years of doing this, Rich Boyer. And the guy that was just up here a minute ago, Mr. Dave Pachetti, just got promoted to C1. So that's what we have for promotions.
Also wasn't announced last month, but Bertoloni got promoted to C1.
Mr. Bertoloni finally got promoted to C1. Now you're getting D1 games. You like that? Yeah, baby. All right, so there's that. The more things change when it comes to assignments. That's why I love my job, because it pays so much. Got an email today. The games on Saturday, UC Davis games, are now Friday night at Google and not Saturday at Davis. So I'm going to make that shift. Also, I talked to the guys at Santa Rosa. So the Redwood game is now at, I believe, 10:30 on Saturday morning for Pete's sake, followed by Santa Rosa D1, followed by Santa Rosa JC, followed by Sonoma. So all those games got pushed up for Pete's sake. First game's at 10:30, last game's at 4 o'clock. I've got games uncovered at Marin. I have games uncovered in Arcata. I know this isn't a big crowd, but anybody willing to drive to Humboldt this weekend? Anybody? Humboldt State women are likely to wind up in the national championship final. They are ridiculously good this year. I mean, freaky good. I just did last week, I went to Reno and did UNR women against UCSC, and they hung, I want to say, 86 points on UCSC, and that's who they're playing this week is UNR. That may be one of the games of the year. I know it's a long drive, but it's absolutely beautiful up there. You're going to get two top teams in a very, if I can coax anybody to go, let me know, because if not, they're going to get a guy that lives up in the area that I think is right around 400 pounds. And
it's going to determine who gets number one in the division.
yeah, it's kind of a big game, but I need a volunteer to get to Arcata. So if anybody's willing to make the drive, I'm half tempted to throw a $100 hotel certificate in there, which will get you a night at the Arcata Inn, which is a nice historic little place. So if you feel like taking the girlfriend away or whatever for the weekend, let me know. But I got to get that game covered. From where you are, about 5 hours. You got to get to Ukiah, and it's 3 hours from there. Ukiah is an hour north of Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa is an hour from here. So it's about 5 hours from where you live would be my guess. Yeah, and then like I said, I'll work on. I mean, we've already not given them a ref once. I mean, literally, put a $100 budget on a hotel room plus your $40 game fee. We'll just send you up there. But I need somebody to go. You know, I've got guys that can cover games locally. I just don't have anybody that can get that far. So that's what I got for announcements and requests. So, woo.
Thanks, and I guess we'll start off with Eric.
All right.
Who's going to be covering technical zone and playoff matches and fourth official, things like that.
We will have playoff games about before the next.
Waiter! All right, most of everything I'm going to be talking about tonight has nothing, it's not in the law book anywhere, except you got to know Law 3 inside and out. But 4, 5, 6, technical zone, all this kind of stuff, it's not in the law, okay? So when you go to do a game and act as a 4, 5, or 6, you have to be moldable to whatever is needed, because it really varies what people ask you to do and what's being supplied to you. So you gotta kind of be ready for anything. So the first thing, if you act as a 4, 5, 6, always bring one of these with you, because you're gonna need it, unless they supply you with one. Sometimes they do. And don't forget to bring lots of pens. If you're acting as a 4 or 5 and there are new coaches, they may not have a pen, and then you got to give them a pen, okay? The other things that you should always bring with you is at least one watch so you can keep track of game time, and another watch. Why would you need another watch, he asks.
Here's the first watch.
Blood bin. Unless you're good at switching back and forth on a single watch, but I'm not, so I just find it easier to have this as a blood bin. So a clipboard, pens and pencils, watches, these are all very necessary things you need to bring. Now I'm going to show you, you can actually get them at our website. Sometimes, like at the collegiate championships, they actually supply you with things ahead of time. But if you go to our website and you go under resources and go to documents, there we go. Then you will see that there is, how did I get to calendar? Resources, documents. I want.
I'll look for it.
documents. I was there earlier. There you go. So down here you will see there's a USA Rugby player movement form, a running score form, and subcards. This is mainly what you're going to be doing is a 4, 5, or 6. Okay, so what is a 4, 5, or 6? What do those numbers mean? Number 4 means that you are doing player movement for the home club. 5 means you're doing player movement for the visiting club. And number 6's role is to do a running total of the score. That's what 4, 5, or 6 is. Sometimes you will be actually a 4, 5, or 6 for a single game. This will drive you nuts, but sometimes you got to be prepared to do it. So starting with the player movement form.
Disables.
My lovely assistant will get us to the player movement form. There we go. Okay, so you will notice that if you are number 4, you only deal with this side of it. If you're a 5, you deal with this side of it. If you're a 4, 5, you do both sides. So up here will be, this is the home team's name, away team's name. Then over here, anytime a player goes on or off the field, you enter their number there. You enter the number of the player going on. You give the reason. Down here at the bottom, you'll see that there's replacement, injury, substitution, tactical, blood and or open wound, player returns after blood. So there's all these various things that you can give as a reason here. Then the last thing you do is you also enter the time that this happened at. Right? Down at the bottom, you indicate who the referee is, who the different assistant refs were. You put your name there, you sign it, you date it, and then this goes back into the files. None of this really becomes important unless it becomes important. Then it's really important that you get it right. Okay, so now let's go back and go to the running score form. I'm showing you that you can actually get these at our website. You can download them and print them. If you are asked to be a 4, 5, or 6, you can bring this stuff with you. Like I'm saying, sometimes they give it to you, sometimes they don't. Okay, so this is really simple. Once again, home team, visiting side. Here, you note the time that something happened. You indicate which team it was, what the type of score was. Was it a try? Was it a conversion? Was it a penalty kick? Was it a penalty try? Was it a drop goal? So you indicate what type of score it was here. You put the number of the player here. A lot of times you can't see who that person was. Go to the coach and say, who scored that? And then they'll normally tell you. If you have a player roster and you have time to do it, then you can actually put the name of the player in there just as a nice thing to do. Okay? Then over here, you just keep a running score. So it would be like 5-0, 7-0, whatever. So this is where you keep the actual, we go. There we go. You get the signature of the home coach. You get the signature of the away coach. The referee signs off. that your final total here actually matches his total, because this is once again the official form that goes into the records, and then you sign it, okay? So that's what the number 4, 5, or 6 is. Now, how this actually happens. Now you can go back to the player substitution card. Okay, there we go. 403 forbidden.
Apparently not.
You'll say rugby sub card.
No, we can't get it.
Okay, it's forbidden. This is why I bring hard copies with me, okay? The page will have something like this. It can be cut into 4, and then you end up with cards like this, right? So once again, depending on the game, these may be supplied to you, or you may be given a clipboard with these already filled out and ready to go. But what you do is you indicate the team up here someplace, right? Then you'll notice that there are, you probably can't all see it, but there's player off, player on. You just put the number of the player there, okay? You indicate what time this actually happens. And then you give a reason here. The 4 reasons given on this sheet are substitution tactical, substitution blood, replacement injury, and substitution send bin, okay? So what I normally do, if I'm acting as a 4 or a 5, I'll have a stack of these already all made out.
That's not on the board now.
There we go. I'll have a stack of these already made out, and I'll go to the coach and I'll say, who's going to be doing substitutions? And then he says, I will, or this person is, okay. So then you go to them and you explain to them, when you want to do a substitution, fill this out, bring this and the player to me, and then we'll send them on the next dead ball, okay? And if this isn't filled out correct, you give it back to them, you say, hey, do this right, you know? Sometimes they get frustrated with you, and that's why you bring one of these, poke them a little bit. You don't have to do that. But once again, so you get the number of the player off, number of the player on the team. You have them check the reason. You indicate what time it happens at. This time is when it actually happens. So if they bring you the player, the next dead ball may not be for 5 minutes, right? So then you actually write down the time that it happens. And then make sure that you get a little signature, initial or something from them, because once again, these are official records. So, questions. What's the difference between a substitution and a replacement? Yeah, I know you know. Okay, here's the deal. You replace injured players and you substitute for tactical reasons. Why is this important? Injured players can never go back on the field again. So if a coach hands you one of these substitution forms and marks replacement injury, and it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with the player, I'd have a little word with the coach and saying, do you really want to mark this? Because this means this player can never go back on again, okay? But that leads me to question number 2. When can a player who has left the field go back on? Yeah, I know, you know. This is why, if you're acting as a number 4, 5, or 6, I think he knows too, you got to know this inside and out. There are exceptions for when players can go back on a field, okay? The one that makes the most sense is this one right here, substitution blood. If a player has an open bleeding wound, they can leave the field and a player in reserve can go on and play for them. This is the reason why you have 2 watches, because if they can staunch the wound within 15 minutes, they can go back on. In fact, it used to be that they weren't required to go back on, but the law is clear about that now. As soon as the wound is staunched, next dead ball, they go back on the field. It's not a rest period. Okay? So that's, you got to kind of keep on track of that. If the wound cannot be stopped in a 15-minute period, they can't go back on, and the actual replacement becomes permanent. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
Could you define blood that requires leaving the field?
The what?
Blood that needs to leave the field as opposed to a presence of blood that you can't get replacement for?
Yeah. You should make sure actually blood.
An abrasion is not a reason to leave the field. It has to literally be an open wound. Like those, no.
The law states that if it's just a little cut or something like that, and you get tentative on the field, it should be. Blood cells is actual bleeding, okay?
That is often abused.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so there are some other very technical times when a player can go back on the field. If a front row player is injured and it goes off, then a player that was previously substituted can go back on again to replace them. Okay?
Substituted for tactical reasons.
Yeah, for tactical reasons. So if a front row player is injured and leaves the field, they can't go back on again. But if a front row player is tactically substituted and the person that goes on for them becomes injured and has to leave, they can go back on again. Okay? That's an exception. There are other exceptions. If a front row player is yellow carded and has to leave the field, the next time there's a scrum, the referee checks with the captain, can you supply another front row player? Yes, we can. So another player on the field has to leave the field until the 10 minutes are up, and then you switch players around again. So when you're dealing with this form, player movement, you note that stuff here. The coaches don't give you a slip for that. You have to keep track of yourself. You also keep track of, so you keep track of sin bins, you keep track of blood bins, and they don't require those. You do it on the actual form. So that's the role of the number 4, 5, is to just keep track of those, and you fill out this thing, and you just keep meticulous notes of who goes when, where. Normally, these substitutions are going to, they have to be done on a dead ball. Usually it happens at 2 points. If it's during play and they want to substitute a player on the field, take them to the AR, and the AR can usually radio in, because at this level they're normally mic'd up, and they'll check with the referee. Okay, we're going to send in this person, we'll do that. Okay. The other time it happens is at conversion kicks. There's obviously no ARs around because they're over at the posts. So if it's the attacking team, go ahead and send them on. If it's the defending team, don't let them go on until after the conversion kick happens. Normally, I check with the referee before the game to make sure that this is going to be kosher with them, because normally the reason you're doing this is because the referee doesn't want to deal with any of this, okay? So always check with the referee and get on the same page about when things are going to happen and how the referee wants them to happen, because once again, it varies. So check with the referee ahead of time. Okay, so then the last thing is, if you can get me to the technical zone. This is not at our website. You have to go to USA Rugby. The other thing that is being asked of the 4, 5, or 6s now is that you have to be kind of the bulldog. There is a new technical zone established. This is the new technical zone. So here you have the field of play. There should be a rope divider or something. If you think of Stuber Field, basically this would be the gate between the two sections of fence. All the teams are back here. There's a zone here between the 10 and the 22 that opens 3 meters out, and there's another one here. The only people allowed in this zone are 2 coaches. Water carriers have to be back here, okay? Water carriers also have to wear something other than a team jersey if they go out on the field, okay? The other people allowed to be out here are medics. There can be 1 medic, there can be 2 medics for each team, 1 on each side of the field, and they are actually allowed to roam up and down the field, okay? But coaches have to stay in this zone right here. This area right here, the administrative area, this is where you'll be living as a 4, 5, or 6. If you're 6, you're probably sitting back here at a table, keeping track of the score on the running score sheet. If you're a number 4, you'll be standing over here. 5 will be standing over here, right? And then if you see the coach headed downfield, go ahead and follow him, because there may be something that they want to do right away. They may call a player over for an injury and they want to do it quick. So you have to keep track of where the coaches are. Really try and keep track on top of that, okay? But nobody else should be out in front of that. Players, when they come off the field, a substitute player will be brought out to you. You'll bring them to the AR. The AR will send them in. And the player that comes off field, 80% of the time, is going to want to stand in the technical zone. So you have to go, right, smooth. So that's your job as the as 4, 5, or 6. And you can see that there's a lot of things that they kind of expect you to do or expected of the team. So you can go to USA Rugby website and look up technical zone, and that's where you can find this, okay?
Players are confined between 10 to 22.
Where what?
Players are confined between 10 and 22 also.
Yeah.
Behind the rope, they can't go beyond the 22.
Yeah, this is why I'm saying when you match with 4, 5, or 6, you have these ideal things, and then you actually get to the games, and they are completely different. So, once again, none of this stuff is a law, and you have to be a little bit flexible about it. There's the idea of what you want to happen, and then there's like the realities. But keeping people in different areas is really important to get a little more control of the game.
It's a safety protocol. In fact, they had history on it last year because we were not enforcing it properly. It is today. But it developed out of keeping teams separated so there's conflict, they can't conflict with each other. So it's not in the law, but it's in the safety protocol at every level that we play at. We just usually don't see it before you get to playoffs. And it's very important that all the refs enforce it the same way for playoffs. Please.
Was the sit down in the restricted areas?
The what?
Yes.
Sit down.
Usually at the 50.
It's at the midline. Yeah, it's midline. Yeah, they don't show you the rest of the field. Effectively, this is midpoint, that's the 10, that's the 22. So the 10 gives you, that basically goes from the 10 to the 22. The sin bin. Aha! Usually there's a chair or 2 sitting here, and this is where the sin bin is. Also, as a number 4 or 5, it's kind of your job to keep track of the sin bin. Normally, what I do is they always want to know, is the time up? Is the time up? No, it's not. Is the time up? No, it's fine. What I normally do is they can sit, and then like a minute or 2 before they're actually going to go back in again,
I tell them to warm up again, okay? Then when it's about maybe a minute to 30 seconds before they can go back again, I'll say, okay, follow me. You take them out to the AR and they go back in on the next dead ball, okay?
What constitutes a dead ball? What constitutes a dead ball?
What constitutes a dead ball?
Before a scrum or before?
Yeah, normally it happens on scrum or a line out. And that they radio it in to the referee, you know, send them back in or whatever, and we can go out and apologize.
If the scrum is forming, it's too late. If the lineup's formed, it's too late.
Yeah. The other thing that you have to be cognizant of is your job as the 4, 5, or 6 is to make the referee's job easier. So you don't want to do things that will irritate them. Yeah, like if he's forming a scrum, that's not a good time to send someone out. But if it looks like there's going to be a little downtime, that's the time to send them in, okay? You will discover that usually the first part of the game, it's pretty quiet. And then the last quarter of the game, the coaches get really excited and they'll run up to you and I gotta send these people in now. It's like, so you have to like settle them down a little bit, you know, follow the procedure. So some of them are very good about it, and some of them don't have a clue what's going on. So it's a little bit of education with the coaches too. So, have I made it clear?
I've got one more comment. Substitutions can only occur if there's a penalty. Only the team that gets the penalty kick can substitute. The fouling team cannot substitute.
Yeah. So remember, it's real important to keep track of substitutions. And remember how many substitutions have happened. But remember, some of them don't count against the substitution limit. In fact, a new one that came out this year is brand new. If a player has to leave the field because of foul play, in other words, if someone comes up and clocks them in the face and they can't play anymore, the team gets to send someone on, and that's a free substitution. That doesn't count against your total.
And it can be a substituted player.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like it's really simple. If you have if you have 6 trained front row, that allows you 23 on your squad and 8 substitutions, right? But then the real important thing of Law 3, and the thing that you have to know inside and out, is what all the exceptions are, because that's where it gets tricky. And those exceptions will happen, trust me. So that's it.
With the technical zone, if you don't enforce the technical zone in the playoffs, and then the next guy that's after the technical zone against that team, you've created a huge headache, because all they're gonna hear is what the other guys do, the other guys do. So please, if you're 4, 5, 6 doing technical zone enforcement, enforce the technical zone, even if you think it's bullshit. And it's what we have to do.
And I have, Paul last week sent out an email class for pro rugby sideline match officials. If you actually click on the link to the form, it will take you to the World Rugby program 4, 4, 5, and 6, and it goes through complete details on it. You don't have to take the exam at the end, but it just goes on. It takes you a good half hour to get through that thing, but it talks about all of it. So you have a reference.
Yeah. So that's it.
Thanks, Eric. And next we have concussion protocol.
Should I scroll? Is on
That's up to you. You can. Or do you want me to scroll?
Right off there.
You want?
That could be boring.
Concussion protocol.
Concussion protocol. There are a few things, let me preamble. One, I am a doctor, so I have my perspective, that's treatment. We're not going to be covering that. This is all about game time protocol, what you're going to do during the game. I've also, as I put this document together, I conversed with Bruce Carter to get his concurrence on some of the stuff and his input to make sure that it makes a little bit of sense. I also talked with one of the coaches to see what his perspective is on what I did. So there's a bunch of stuff that's been collaborated on putting this together. Now I'm going to try and not to be boring. I know it's reading off a document you can all read. So we all know that concussions are really a hot topic. It doesn't make any difference whether it's athletics, military, whatever. Concussions is a hot topic. In fact, the Center for Disease Control says it's an epidemic and we need to do something about it. There recently was how do I scroll this? Can you put a scroll bar on the bottom?
Just the bottom. Right arrow. Just this button.
Oh, okay.
It'll scroll through.
All right, that'll work. And recently, I think in December, a movie came out called Concussion. It's about the UC Davis pathologist who was a little mortified. He didn't know American football at the time that he was just seeing all of this concussion stuff occurring, and it happened to be the NFL. And the NFL, it took them 11 years before they acknowledged that there was an issue and something was finally being done about it. This is going to be on some type of website, right? Or Paul's going to post.
Paul will send it out.
Okay, so I'm hitting this too often here. Where did I go? This is scrolling by page.
This is the whole page.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Hit the arrow on the bottom right. See the arrow? Bottom. You go up there, there we go.
But I don't want to go a whole page. Is this the whole page? It doesn't match what I have.
Does it? Oh, okay.
There we go. How did?
All right. We'll exit this full screen mode. You can scroll.
I can work better with it on the side like that. Oh, but it's got all the indentation marks and everything. Can you take that off?
Yeah. Sorry. I do a document editing, so.
Ah, perfect. Okay, so I've preambled why concussion is so important. And now, obviously, the IRB, World Rugby, local rugby societies, everybody is concerned that there be some type of protocol with regards to the 2005 law book had a law amendment trial added to Law 3 that discusses head injury assessment. The big point about this is that does not apply for any rugby in the United States. A head injury assessment is at the pro level, international,
And there's a whole team of doctors and medics who are trained and they know exactly what they're going to be doing. So I'm just mentioning the fact that it's listed in the laws, but it's not applicable. No head. In fact, well, I'm going to lead into this. If there's a head assessment, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but if there's a head assessment at all, that is proof that there is a concussion and you have the reason to get them off the field at that point. So if you suspect that there is a concussion, and I'm going to go into some details about what a concussion is, you can get them off the field. If the coach or some medic on the side says, this guy's got a problem, you should substitute. And certainly if you see anybody doing any type of neurologic assessment, that's indication enough that the player should be off the field. Okay, let me see. So World Rugby and the IRB says they have a section that you can go out to their websites. Recognize and remove is what the section is titled to. If you get a copy of this document, I've got the link to that and you can refer to that. So when in doubt, sub them out. You're going to get, the coach that I talked to, he was a little concerned that we might apply this. And he wanted to stress that some teams have their own medical doctors. Well, at any time, you have the authority. You're the final word as to whether the player continues or not. So Paul Bretz, a couple of weeks ago on Facebook, posted an Irish Times article about a player being substituted. This is a high school level game. And the article is an interesting article. It is another link in this document that goes through the process of what the coaches are doing and what the referee decided to do. The point is he substituted the player because in his mind, the player was injured. He had a concussion. And I'm going to help you figure out what a concussion is. So Law 3.9, and this was the 2005 book. 2016, it's now Law 3.10, but it's the same. Come on. I have a mouse. Can we connect the mouse?
Yeah, the mouse and the water.
I have a mouse.
I don't know that it's working yet.
Huh?
Well, for this one, if you just do with 2 fingers, you can scroll up and down. With just 2 fingers.
Oh, okay. We can do that.
Until that oh, it's still loading the driver.
Ah. Okay. So law 3.9, this, jeez, where am I? Law 3.9, I know, well, I took my hand off. Law 3.9, this is the direct quote that gives you the authority to get the player off the field. So you have a law. You're the referee. You're the final authority for anything anyhow. So if you decide that the player is concussed, get them off the field.
Well, it's not deciding they're concussed, it's deciding there's a possibility they are concussed. That's
For reasons we're going to go into. So you should listen to the coach or trainer or any medical person if they decide that there is a concussion or a head injury. That's reason to get them off. Dr. Carter said, if what you agree with him, and then the final vote is yours. You can decide whether the player is. Remember, we're all doing this for the safety of the player. And this is and it's just a game for most people. We're not working professional levels here. Some of you maybe at one point will, but for now, okay. Okay, I've already mentioned head injury assessment is what the HIA is. There have been a couple of times in the Pelicans that referees have commented about a player being evaluated on the sideline, and then that player winds up coming back in. That cannot happen. I hope everyone understands that now. Once you see somebody being assessed for neurological problems, concussion types of issues, that's it for them. They're out. And what type of replacement would it, or what type of substitution is this? It's a replacement. And because it's a replacement, they cannot come back into play for any reason, blood reason, front row, whatever. Once they're out for head injury, it's a replacement and they're done for the day. And then later I'm going to talk about how do they ever get to play rugby again. And that's really not your problem as the referee for game day. Okay, now, and this goes into a little bit more detail about what's the difference between head injury assessment and non-head injury assessment when it's applied. Well, again, in international matches, they have trained doctors who are doing the evaluation. There's it's almost like a blood bin, but I think it's a 10-minute blood bin instead. The brain bin. And international, the player can be brought back in. But I've said this before, the United States, for anything that we're going to be doing, they're out of the game. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of technical detail about concussions and what they are. So it's a violent jar or shock to the head, however it happens, or a condition that results from a jar, any type of mental issue, my bell was rung, or I saw stars, whatever. I think we've all experienced these type of things, so we know for ourselves what it is. That is diagnostic for concussion, and the player needs to come out. So it used to be, concussion used to be, one of the requirements used to be loss of consciousness. That's no longer part of the definition. So here are some of the things you can observe. Sorry? Ah, cool. There we go. All right. So if you observe this, you may or may not have noticed the player hitting head. But if you see they're lying motionless on the ground, they're slow to getting up, they're holding their head, these are signs, some of the signs that there was an issue. A little more technical stuff, there are levels of concussions, and this is really for the doctor for how they would treat the patient depending on what grade of concussion that they had. And obviously it can go from just slight confusion all the way to having lost consciousness. So the higher mental functions, technical term retrograde amnesia, this is, Bruce is correcting me on this. If I only had to ask a question to the player, was how did you get to the game today? Because that's the short-term memory that hasn't gotten into the long-term memory. And if they pause and they have to think about that, that is diagnostic of having had a concussion, and they should be removed from the game. I thought it was more like what day it is. Most people will remember the day, and they can see the opponent, so they'll know who the opponent is. That is not necessarily, certainly if they don't know what day it is or who the opponent is, that's diagnostic as well. So the final thing Bruce said was, when you ask them how they got to the game, if they look around or think about it, off they go. That's they got it. So what is a concussion? The brain is actually accelerating and decelerating. Think of what you know about whiplash. So the brain is actually doing this inside the skull. And what happens is, with that rapid motion, there's going to be tearing of nerve cells, brain cells, blood vessels. It won't necessarily be apparent, but this is all stuff that's going on in the brain, and that's why it's better to get them out and get them protected. So if you see a teammate, a head-to-head with a teammate and fall on the ground, if they lay on the ground for any length of time. Now, I've got to give an exception to this. I was watching one of the games recently, I think between Cal and Navy a couple of weeks ago. I saw the player hit heads with another player, and then he went down to the ground. My initial reaction was, oh, he's concussed, he's out of the game. What had happened, why he was on the ground, was because he got a stinger in his shoulder, and he was just in pain, and he just couldn't do it. So you can ask the player what's going on, and if they're saying it's a stinger, that's okay to let the player continue at that point. But because you saw him hit his head, you need to pay attention to see if other things are happening, if he's stumbling around at any point, or other things that would indicate a head injury. All right, and then first aid. So if players on the ground, they're unconscious, this is what you check for. This is, anybody can check this. If they're unconscious, make sure they're able to breathe, control any bleeding, and if they're out, stabilize their head before moving. Don't roll them over, keep them in position, get a medic or somebody to get the player off the field. Okay, so the IRB has, USA Rugby has a concussion management. They have a chart that, again, referenced as a link in this document, you can take a look at. And I just took one of the cells out of the chart that happens to be the cross between what a referee does during game time. And that's what this paragraph talks about. So if you see what you suspect is concussion, stop the game, decide if the player should be evaluated by a medical person. If there's any reason for you to think concussion is involved, get them off the field. This next paragraph here, this was something one of the coaches wanted me to put in there. And this is such a rare event for most of the games that we're involved in, that there is a medical doctor that's actually working the sidelines. You can defer to that doctor and make an opinion. You still have the final authority as to whether you're going to replace him or not. But the medical doctor, if he gives an opinion, he's legally bound to that opinion. So he's not going to put a player in jeopardy without liability. Okay, again, a few more during the course of the game, or when you talk to the players, here are some of the other signs that you can observe about that would indicate concussion has occurred. And certainly if the player exhibits these things or complains about a headache, loss of vision, the noise is just getting to them, these are indications that a concussion has occurred. And again, get them out. All right. So this return to play, this is not in reference to the game. This is when the player can actually return to playing rugby. And it isn't just rugby that has the protocols for return to play. This is now a medical condition that a doctor needs to take care of. And there are specific steps. As this says, there are 5 steps they need to go through before they can return to play. These steps can occur within 5 days or so, but USA Rugby has made the stipulation, no player can do any form of rugby activity or aerobic activity for 1 week, at least 1 week. And in high school, it's at least 2 weeks before they can do any form of activity. And then it's a graduated, you allow them to do aerobic exercise, then you gradually lead into practicing, and then ultimately they can get back in, but they have to be cleared by a neurologist. The neurologist has to say it's safe for the player to be going through these stages. Again, this is not our responsibility during game time, but this is how a player would return. And my final comment, well, because I'm involved in healthcare, there are states, some states have laws on the book now that requires the coach to get confirmation of clearance for the player to be allowed to go through these stages. And if they don't, the coach winds up having legal liability. So in summary, concussions are very serious. We all have the authority to protect players from further injuries. Now let's hope that this doesn't happen, of course. Questions? And the last page here are the Irish Times article, which is an interesting read. This is the World Rugby Concussion Management document. The chart that I referred to, this chart lists pre-game, game, post-game, and recovery by the player, by the coach, by the referee. So it's a matrix. Again, really the only thing that you need to be focusing on is game time. And then there's one other comment. This final one is a video that was out on our Pelican Ref's website for training earlier this year. Yes.
The chart is a little confusing. Higher up on this page, the chart is on NCR Rugby's rules about concussion. Rule 1 and 2 are what apply to us as referees. The chart sometimes reads that you can assess somebody and then you can assess if they can stay. But the actual rule for USA Rugby is if you think, then they're out. So you can't assess. If you think about assessing, you have to think about it.
If you think about assessing, you just assess.
Right. So, and the chart isn't clear on that. It's a little misleading.
So what is the definition of assess?
You think I need to be assessed? I'm out of the game.
That's correct.
There's a possibility that they have an injury.
This is the chart.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be careful instead of making a emotional response to it. Take a little break, take a look before you make your assessment, because there's no point in tell.
There's, and I was in a game, I had a game where two players hit the opposing player and it went down. They all three fell down and both of them. And everybody thought it was a head hit, when it was a head rib hit first. And they put down on that player, the hurt player's movement form, that it was a concussion. When the player came out not for concussion, but because they had a rib bruise. But because that was in the official
I was looking for my document. Oh, it's going to be here.
What do we do? Because this happened. We went to disciplinary and formal inquiry. All these things happened because it was suspected as a head injury because it was too, nobody checked was it actually a head hit or was it a different kind of hit. Not every hit is a head injury that results in players not moving on the ground.
So the reason I asked that question is up there, it said, you see a hit, you get the player, you watch them get up, right? And you think they are concussed, they're below the list, they're out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's correct. Now, your coaches are obviously going to be upset with you. But, hey, player safety, this is just a game. Yes, sir.
So, you say if you've got physio, if you call the physio to make an assessment, are you then making an assessment because you call the physio? No, there it says they make judgments, and if they say they're okay, then provided they're not wobbling, the head's good, they're not here, okay, then they are. So I'm just getting a bit confused about this.
That's why I said,
Yeah.
right. Let's hear both sides of that.
You have to educate the physios who are not rugby players who are the rugby standards. We have EMTs that cover our games, and they want to do a head injury assessment. We have to train them that they want to do a head injury assessment, and the players stop.
Most rugby that we're going to be involved in do not have qualified people on the sideline who can make that assessment. So you have to use your judgment. Even if I was on the sideline, I am not qualified to make that judgment.
So who would be qualified? Obviously, a head doctor, that's easy, right? We go down the list here, but like, where does it?
You can have the argument that if there's an MD on the sideline and the MD says it's okay, the MD is liable for that decision to put the player back on. You still can veto that.
But you've already blown the whistle.
Yep.
He's out.
If you blew the whistle because you think concussion is the thing, yeah, you're right, the player's off.
But if the
Okay,
doctor.
so he blew the whistle for a lineout, then he's laying
So,
down.
okay, well, what happens is,
Big one, and now.
Yeah, if he goes down because he got hit in the gut, well, that's not a head injury. If he goes down because he's got a stinger, that's not a head injury.
yeah, now you'll stop play for an injured player and you'll have a medic come out. That would be the time an MD could possibly come out and say, no, it's not a head injury.
I think we're getting at is we don't put this in making an assessment of that's concussion. You don't know. Something bad happens. Figure it out. That's great thing.
Well, we're not assessing whether it is or isn't a concussion. We're assessing is there a possibility of concussion. So the EMT comes down and says, well, you passed my or audio test, but the player got hit in the head, you take him out. Because there's a possibility that won't be determined until you send that player to an actual doctor.
That's true. That is correct.
The other big thing too is that I think it's even worse than concussion is if a player is really injured in some form is the EMT, maybe pay for EMTs to show up with one decision. Do I move that body where it is to someplace else? That's it. I move it off the pitch to the sideline to get cared, or does the EMT get to there and say, no, he's got to see one in, bring in the cracker box and get this guy on. We don't want anybody in our organization making that decision. We want somebody to bring medical professional.
Air to safety.
I have players behind me all the time because I see them get hit. I know they probably don't have a concussion, but they got hit in the head. They fell down. They say their head hurts. I say, you're out. It's also going to the doctor with you if you're not playing for 2 weeks. Because at minimum, it's 24 hours, then it's a week, then it's a graduated return activity, which is a very mild aerobic, then it's 24 hours, then it's the next phase, then it's 24 hours, then it's the next phase. So it's another week before they're going to return to play if they're suspected. Unless they go to the doctor and the doctor says, no, there is no head injury. There is no concussion. If they come back with a letter that says no concussion, I can put them back in training right away. If they don't have that,
That
then
is,
you wait it out.
that's not according to rugby protocol. They must wait a week regardless.
Yes, they must wait a week regardless unless the doctor diagnoses no concussion.
Okay,
I checked that with USA Rugby, and the collegiate director said, if it comes back from the doctor, there is no concussion, they can return to play.
all right, but, and again, you guys, we're not involved. Yeah, we're not involved at the game time.
But what is our liability?
Your liability is to get them out of the game.
You're done.
That's good.
You're done, get them off. Get them off the pitch.
That's right, and you're done.
The only time you have-
Oh, no.
Bar medical-
No, there is one other responsibility. After the game, you need to assist any coach or medical person with your observation as to why you called what you did. That is your, also, you do need to do that.
There is a USA Rugby incident report for injury that we are supposed to fill out in any injury. It's needed if they use USA Rugby insurance, they didn't claim. So you would want it, there's a witness statement on that form you would want it down.
Is that only for USA Rugby matches, or is that for all matches?
Well, any match in USA is under USA Rugby. So yes,
For all matches?
any match, if somebody injured, you're supposed to do an injury report.
So, any other questions? Yes.
It's true that if a person would have a concussion or is suspected drinking, probably the last thing that person should be engaged in.
Not necessarily. If they're out, obviously you're not going to give them any fluids, but I'm not aware of any water issue.
Does it, Irish whiskey, does it have anything to do with the important? It's like about beer.
Personally, I think a beer would taste good at that point. I don't know. No, I can't give you an opinion of that.
Not your right, because what, it is when the myth is, when the proven, truth is that drinking when you have a concussion.
Oh, no, that's not good. No, if you've got brain injury, you want to cut out anything that's illegal or alcoholic or, yeah, it's not good. Look, give the brain a chance to recover.
There's nothing physically wrong with it, it's just not medically advisable.
Well, because occasionally at the drink up, you'll see the player that was sent off, they handed beer or with beer. And I think that legally, I'm not sure what the obligation is, but morally, I think you should say something.
Well, morally, yes, you can say something if you feel that you want to, but your obligation ended when the game ended.
Right. Yeah.
My obligation, if I see something like that, I have to do something more.
You're a medical professional.
But I'm a medical professional.
Those things, you have a higher obligation than an attorney or an auditor or
Yep,
whatever we all
that's right.
are. I know, I'm a big believer in Shakespeare too. No. Give all the attorneys first.
The attorney wants to chase the ambulance if it does the work.
So I can just unplug it?
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
So that's everything I have / we have. Ron?
So one more announcement I kind of thought of was, April 29th, Friday, Marine Memorial Club, Illinois party for Bruce Carter.
Oh, he's actually moving now?
Marine Memorial Club here in San Francisco, a very nice venue. Yeah. But he's out here. So, Illinois party that, I want to say, obviously, was, dinner. It's going to be around $70. We're talking about whether we have the wine thing go to another 12. So it's going to be in that, well, $60 to $85 range. I don't think it's nailed down yet. I don't have any time stuff. Just have me mark it in your calendar if you need to be making something or whatever. But it looks like a Friday night, April 29th. It's the league season of the NorCal club playoffs, all that stuff are done the weekend before the 23rd. So it'll be the league games, maybe some college stuff, a few things, but not a real big full slate of games. So really no good excuse time to be here on Friday night. Bruce, for those of you that don't know, president of the society for years, referee for years. Kind of the reason most of us are in this room and the way that it was set up, the way it was set up as a society. So it would be very good for you guys to show up. I'm going to say come armed with your favorite Bruce Carter story. I'll sit up there for 35 minutes. If you get a good one, you get up there and tell one. It's kind of what I'm going to recommend at this point. So keep that in mind. Society's getting to something. Obviously, if you've got something beyond that, let me know. So I will be found for Bruce, but giving my slice. You know, we'll see. Yeah, we'll figure something out.
We supposed to get to 90 minutes.
It's not my argument. I believe you should, I don't know if the $600 was for, whether it's setting up to everybody, but that is, that should be something that should be forthcoming from, Mr. Wilson, our,
So email Dan.
yeah, I might send you one today.
Speaking of which, we're supposed to get that monthly.
I don't know how often, I had a meeting in there, there's no idea, it doesn't mean so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you got, I mean, those that aren't getting paid, some of you, if you're not getting paid, maybe because you have a lot of paid work, you know, social security numbers, things like that, but anything money related to animals, either you're not getting checks, you need a 1099, anything along those lines. And Grant, I just decided that the whole game was to know what all my companies.
There's expense reimbursement is like, yeah.
I don't know what they're looking at as 1099. I look at it as a straight match fee. I don't know, I mean, there are some games that cost you more than $40 to go to, they'll spend $80 to go. That's and some games are close enough. Yeah, I need to walk we need to change the cookie, make it, it's about
The next meeting is April 13th. Thanks for coming. Eric, don't forget your watches. Eric, you need better hearing aids. You want your watches? No? Yes.
God, I hope that worked.